G'day everybody, welcome to my Aussie Gardening Kitchen. I'm Daz. This is my orange powder recipe. It's a dehydrated orange powder that I make slightly different to some people, which I believe gives a lot stronger flavour and a more beautiful, vibrant colour. So do stick around with me and let's make it together. So first of all, one of the most important steps there is to get in there and wash those oranges. Now, first of all, make sure your sink is clean, please. Have a beautifully sanitized sink, clean water. I get some vinegar into the water. And one thing to note is when washing the oranges, please get in there into the little cracks and grooves and scratch in there and get them clean. Rinse them off because we are going to be using the outside of the orange. So it's so important to make sure that we have the outside of the orange really, really clean. Alright, so we'll go straight on to the biggest tip I can give you, and that is to only use the zest, the outer orange part of the orange, not the white pith. That white stuff that goes all around the orange on the inside, it can be very bitter, and you don't want that in your ingredients or in your recipes if possible. So only take off the rind of the orange, and it's just superb. A vegetable peeler is the way to go, but this tool that I'm using is actually designed to take the zest off citrus, and it's so good, and as you can see, it's really easy, and it leaves a lot of that pith behind. A lot of people are going to ask, what do I do with the rest of the orange? And that's easy. I use 100% of the orange. So obviously I'm taking the zest off the outside, and that's going to give me my beautiful dehydrated powder. And then what I will do is cut the oranges in half, and I'll juice them. And I actually freeze the juice in bags, and then we save that for when we make smoothies, or any other recipe really that requires orange juice, but generally I save it for smoothies. And then the rest of it, you've got those cups that have now got a bit of residue in the inside from the orange flesh and that white pith. So I'll chop that up, pop that into a bottle of vinegar, give it a good shake every now and then, not touch it for about 2 weeks. Then I'll take that and strain it through a sieve with a cloth inside the sieve. And then I've got myself a nice orange cleaner that I'll use on benches and windows and even the car windows here and there. It's fantastic. Now, if I've got a really large batch of oranges and it's going to take a while to peel them all, I'll put some water into a bowl, and I like to have the peels to go into the water, and I find that the water just helps the orange peels keep their shape and they stay nice and moist for now, and there's going to be no issues later on when I'm trying to dehydrate them, because if they do dry out or they get a bit old, say if I pop them into the fridge, I do notice that the colour will slightly vary. So a bowl of water seems to be the way to go for me. Now that I've got my peels done, I spread them out onto my dehydrator racks, just getting them all out, spreading them pretty evenly. Try not to have them overlap too much. There's going to be one here and there that's going to touch like this, but I don't stress too much about that because they're going to shrink and contract, and generally those ones that are crisscrossed will shrink and contract. And I do check them anyway during the process, and if I do see some that are stuck together still, I'll just move them out of the way from each other and they're fine. They go into the dehydrator at about 52 to 55 degrees Celsius. Fahrenheit, I'll pop on the screen now. Now, timing is going to wholly depend on your situation with humidity and the weather and all sorts of things. As a basic guide, mine took about 8 hours here on this particular day with this batch. But just check them after, say, 4 hours, and then every hour from then. Now, unfortunately for me, I forgot to push the record button when taking them out of the dehydrator. It's not the first time. I'm sure it won't be the last. But I do have some more footage, so don't worry. Anyway, take them out of the dehydrator and let them condition. Now, conditioning basically just means to let them sit at room temperature, and then that way, when you pop them into a jar, for instance, if you're going to put them into a jar, there's no chances of humidity in there and making very bad things happen to your dehydrated food. So I've taken mine out, I've let them condition, they're nice and firm, they're crisp, that's very important, no moisture, they're crisp and they snap, and then it's just a matter of getting them into a grinder or a blender of some kind and grinding them down into a powder. Now please do consider that if using a blender, for instance, if you've got a plastic bowl with your blender, there is a chance that over time, the coarse dehydrated items that are spinning around are going to grind against the plastic, and they're going to make possible grooves, scratches, and even discolor the plastic. Once I've got them ground down into a beautiful powder, I'll sieve it through a nice fine sieve just to pick out any lumps and bits that may have skipped, and I'll regrind them again, pop them through the sieve again, and there we go, we've got a beautiful powder. Now, because this has less than 10% moisture in the powder, I'll put an oxygen absorber and I'll vacuum seal this and I'll put that into the pantry, because it's not something that I use very often, but I just like, it's probably overkill, but I like to have the oxygen absorber in there anyway, just to keep it at 0 oxygen, helping that powder to stay stored in the pantry for a lot longer. You can use food grade silica as well. You can pop a little silica packet in there, and that's also going to absorb moisture. And then what I've actually done just now is that I've just recently used it in a recipe, a hot cross bun recipe, a spiced fruit bun recipe, which you can actually go and check out on my channel, haha. But I've actually just put a resealable lid on that, and I'm putting a silica packet into that just to retain or grab any moisture that may be in the jar after I've sealed it. I cannot tell you how good this smells when you pop the jar open. It's incredible. And you've got that beautiful zingy, orangey, citrus flavor and tang that comes from the powder. You've just really got to try it. I mostly use it in baking, and as I said earlier, I'll sprinkle it on top of ice cream and things like that as a little kick of citrus orange. It's so good. I've got other dehydrating videos on my channel, and I'll put a video right here on the screen now. That's another dehydrating video, which I'm sure you're going to like. Thank you so much for being here, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.